16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man.
Check your
and
page,
the funny
make
thing
sure it's streaming.
is that I've learned to overcome it, and I've had a much I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh no, it's cool, dude. Let me tell you, it took a long time.
I wanna scream, I wanna shout, I wanna know what it's all about.
Yeah, it really is amazing about all the bad transplants you do see out there. I mean, I was on the train the other day, and I saw 3 guys in one car,
Yeah.
the subway, that it was horrible. It was a horror show. I mean, they didn't hear you, and that's a problem. That's why you have to guys get out there and get as mainstream as you can.
You got to pull yourself together, man. You got to get back on your feet again. How can I ever make you understand? You got the will right in your hand.
You know, I went to Dr. Bernstein only because of you guys. You know, God forbid I would have went to somebody else like Bosley. Bottom line, I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at. I just noticed
You
something
can
that
check the forum. It should
in
be
one of your
streaming live
interviews
on the
with
forum
John
as well.
Candy, I believe, it looked like an older interview, you had less hair than you have today. How do you explain that?
I don't wear a wig, sir.
Paint your bald spot?
What bald spot?
You paint your bald spot?
I don't know what you're talking about, sir. My hair grows.
You paint your bald spot.
I don't have a bald spot.
How come you had less hair on the tape?
Maybe my hair grew. Maybe I had a bad haircut that day. By the way, something.
There it is, right?
Why do you care?
Paint your bald spot?
I don't.
Hey guys, we're holding on. We are doing the live show in about 2 seconds. Sorry for the delay. We're trying to set everything up both on GFQ Live, The Bald Truth, and on YouTube's, on Joe Tillman's YouTube
I
channel.
always hear a lot of guys.
So you can also watch us live on baldtruthtalk.com.
My hair.
I'm watching it right now. Joe's shaking his head for some reason.
No, it's all good, man. And you know, the funny thing is,
Joe, can you not see it?
I've learned to overcome it. And
No,
I've
I can
had
see it.
much, like,
All right.
I'm
just having audio problems. Oh, there we go.
Be myself now.
Finally.
Well, I admire that.
Everything back?
Cool, dude. Let me tell you,
Go
it
back.
took a long time.
I wanna scream,
Skype just acting a little weird.
I wanna know what it's
All right,
all
let's get started.
Yeah, you know, it really is amazing about...
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. We unfortunately just lost Joe, and I'm going to try to hook up with him in a second. But if you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, why we are here, this is the Hair Loss Show. You're going to notice, especially for those who are listening on iTunes Radio, on iHeartRadio, and on all of the other online audio sources, that we've kind of, our production has been rendered a little bit, I'm not going to say impotent, but we have not been able to utilize our normal production because we are now trying to stream live on YouTube. And they have some copyright issues, which even though I own the content, they haven't figured that out yet. So there's a lot of, there would be a lot of back and forth if I continued to use our normal production. So we're kind of going in dry doing the broadcast. The phone number is 888-659-3727. I'm going to get Joe Tillman back on the line. Those of you who are watching on YouTube and on Bald Truth Talk, you're watching a live feed from Joe Tillman, the original hair transplant mentors Facebook page. And why can't I hook up with him again? Let's see if we can make this happen. And this is the beauty of live broadcasting. But I think we're going to be able to make this happen right now. Phone number 888-659-3727. There he is. Let me set up his shot, and I will be able to hook up with him for you guys to see in him in his lovely studio and white shirt. Let's see if I can make this work. All right, there we go. There's Joe. Guys, the phone number, call in, 888-659-3727.
Sound. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Wave your hand.
What? Yeah, I hear you. You can't hear me? Man, you got to get that.
You can hear me.
You got to get that shit straightened out, dude.
Okay.
Anyway, Joe's having some technical issues.
Signing off, and we'll try again.
Oh, shit. Okay. But if you are new to the broadcast, and again, if you don't know who I am, I founded the American Hair Loss Association. I'm the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I am the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, and I am the guy who has been in this industry for well over 20 years. I have been essentially exposing the truth about this treacherous, ridiculous, corrupt, just I would say one of the most unsavory places you'd ever want to be involved in. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, there is a fine line that has to be walked, because the bottom line is there is a possibility of being helped out there. But we have 2 FDA-approved products that actually work. There is one product that is FDA cleared or FDA approved, another drug for benign prostate hyperplasia, but not hair loss, and that is dutasteride. We know that works as well. There is some, I have to say, even questionable clinical data showing that low-level laser light therapy can work, but we still do not endorse it through the American Hair Loss Association yet, and it's been a long time that it's been out. And also, Joe wants me to call him back. We do know that platelet-rich plasma therapy, the right kind of platelet-rich plasma therapy, can help to induce an antigen phase, help with telogen effluvium, regrow some hair. But the thing is, all PRP is not created equal, and the problem is everyone and their mother is marketing it as though it is all created equal. So there's a tremendous amount of confusion out there. Guys, and I'm sorry if I seem distracted. I am trying to multitask here because Joe can't get his shit together. Let's see if we can make this happen. Here he is. All right, let me see. I see your sound, Joe. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Well, that's it.
Holy smokes.
Let's hope this stays as is.
I think it might be because it's a new version of Skype on my Windows machine, which likes to update whenever the hell it just likes to update. But I don't
think anybody really cares.
I've got it on my Mac, and I think because both were open at the same time, somehow it tripped things up. So I just shut that down anyway.
All right. Well, you're set up. I am telling people who are new to the broadcast what this is. Listen, guys, you know, we talk a lot about surgical hair restoration because, unfortunately, that is what is doing the most damage out there to so many vulnerable hair loss sufferers. With that said, in my own personal life, I had lost tens of thousands of dollars before I was able to find something that really helped me, and that was the drug finasteride. That's what changed my world, changed my life. That's why I chose to write a book exposing the industry, which is ridiculously and thankfully still in print. After 20 years. This is the 20th anniversary of The Bald Truth. And, you know, with that said, guys, I'll take your calls in a second, so hold on, 888-659-3727. With that said, and it's very funny, today I was contacted by a radio station a huge 50,000 watt blowtorch station in New York City. I'm not going to name the station for reasons that you'll understand in a second. But the person that I knew contacted me, knew me for many, many years, especially when I was airing the program in New York, and I started this show in New York, and said that they wanted to put the program, The Bald Truth, on their station on the weekend. Now, understand that usually a lot of weekend programs are brokered time. They're either infomercials or they're guys like, what's his name, Ramsey, the finance guy, who basically brokered his own time and built his own empire on brokered radio time. Mm-hmm. Said that they would essentially put the program on at no cost, would not have to broker the time, and they wanted it to kind of be like a lost leader for other people who wanted to broker time because we've had so much success on the program. So I said, well, how would this work? And I said, I do my program live on Tuesdays. Would I have to then either ISDN or Skype into your station on Sundays or Saturdays? And that's what they said we would do. He said the only thing that this person said, the only thing that we would ask of you is we would ask you to speak to other potential sponsors to say, you know, what a great relationship we've had over the years, and that you are paying this much money to be on the air. I'm like, you know that's fraud, right? I mean, you realize, I know that radio is dying, and then you guys are fucking desperate, but you know that if I would, not only, I mean, yeah, I mean, I may not be, if I'm representing your company, you guys would really be the guys in trouble, but I would still be, you know, aiding and abetting the act of fraud. If I said, you know, if we made an agreement saying that I pay your $1, then yeah, I can say that I pay to be on the air, but I couldn't give an amount.
Right.
So long story short, they want to come back to the table with something else. I don't know if we're going to be back on the radio. Frankly, I don't mean to sound obnoxious because we're on iHeartRadio, but they're really on the internet. I don't give a fuck if we're back on the radio because the radio is not going to help us in any way, and it's just great bragging rights. But I thought it was a very desperate move. Now, we were talking at one point, this was not only the most powerful station in New York City, that you could hear all the way up in Toronto and other parts of Canada. It was the most powerful and biggest station in the country. And now they're calling they're looking at any type of leads or whatever they can find to somehow develop some sort of business to keep themselves on the fucking air.
Just trying to fill dead space.
and they're calling the Bald Show
yeah.
to help with the fucking bait and switch. And in a way, I'm proud of that because,
the
you know,
tables have turned.
Yeah, because we've been on the air for 20 years.
Yeah.
And but I thought it was interesting, and I thought that it was. Look, honestly, most people would have taken it and just said, yeah, I'll speak to the guys, whatever it is. But I don't want to be involved in any, even though that is kind of peripheral shit, I don't want to be involved in that shit.
Yeah.
You know, if someone ends up paying $4,000 an hour and doesn't do well and finds out that, you know, the Bald Truth is on there at no fee, then they're going to end up suing the radio station. And then somehow I'm going to be thrown into that shit.
Somehow it's going to find its way back to you.
Yeah, and I'm insured, and it doesn't make a difference, and it's not a big deal. It's not, you know, you're not falsely selling anything to consumers or whatever it is. But I don't want any fucking part of it. But how the tables have turned. 888-659-3727. We are live from Los Angeles. Joe Tillman, who is the original hair transplant mentor, is live in his TBT studio in Vancouver, British Columbia. That is why this show is so unique. It essentially looks like we're in the same studio, almost. Studios look very similar. And that is why I love internet broadcasting. Some people call it podcasting, streaming, whatever it is. The whole thing is internet broadcasting. We're on the internet. We're broadcasting live, which is pretty unusual. Even though with YouTube and everything, more people are trying to do live. But we're doing a call-in show live, and we also provide a podcast, which, by the way, you'll be able to find on Joe's Hair Transplant Mentor, or is it Joe Tillman's YouTube page?
Joe Tillman YouTube page, yeah.
Yeah, he can't even say his own name. Joe Tillman's YouTube page.
I'm drunk. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, we should be. We're doing a bald show. All right, guys, listen. Phone number is 888-659-3727. We're going to go right to the phones. And as I say that, people hang up. Hey, guys, you are live. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey.
Dante.
Oh, shit.
Dante,
you're going to talk us into having a hair transplant again. Go ahead. Let's see what you got.
No, gentlemen, how are you tonight?
Fine.
Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Doing good, thanks.
Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. I don't have too much to report, but a couple things. Something funny happened. I think it was, what's today? Yesterday, I think it was. I get a call. I'm in my office. I get a call, and a woman starts telling me she's calling from, so-and-so's office. And I didn't put the connection together right away, but who it was a person from my my doctor's office where I had my last 2 transplants, and she said, yeah, you were in here for your 10-month and, your 10-month, checkup, because I had the transplant October of 2016, so I was in there September of 2017, like 11 months. And I was concerned about that space I have from where the little piece I have, from where my real hair stops to the little piece. She said, yeah, we just wanted to know what you were thinking because I know you were in here and you were concerned about that. And, Dr. Feinberg wanted to know if she wanted to come in. And I said, well, I can't right now, too busy. I actually do tax work, so I really don't have any time to do anything right now. But I said, maybe I'll come in April. But I said, but my concern is that, he really does, I really don't, he doesn't do these big enough sessions, like 1,000 grafts, 900, whatever it is. I said, that's just my concern. I realize I may not have a whole bunch of hair left, but I just want to maybe do one more at some point, just max it out, and that's the end of it. And then she went on to tell me that, well, he's cautious because you've been opened up a bunch of times, and he's concerned about that scar if it. I forget the term she used, but
stretch back.
Right, stretch back, and that's why he only goes so far with it, So I said, all right, I'll see. Like maybe May, I'll stop in and see.
Well, just to let you know, I mean, first of all, that was a very reasonable response she gave you. Because you have had several surgeries, and it's better to be cautious, absolutely, especially if you're going to have another strip. But also know that the reason you're being called is it's beyond just a follow-up to see how you're doing. You were already in for your 10 months. They know how you were doing. You expressed your concerns. It's nice for people to say hello. And I think that's wonderful. But usually when you get a call like that, companies, and it doesn't matter how good the guy is. Dr. Feinberg is a very nice man. But they're looking for business. That's a sales call. And I don't know if you agree with that, Joe.
100%.
Yeah, but that's what that is. So everyone just has to be aware of that if you haven't heard from your hair transplant clinic in a while and all of a sudden they're calling you, it's because business is slow. And someone's tuition has to be paid, someone's rent has to be paid, someone has to keep those lights on, and they are
slot has to be filled.
A slot has to be filled, and they are looking for dollars. That's just the way that it is. Now, that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. Just people need to understand that this is a business, and if you haven't, let's put it this way. If you went to a regular doctor, like my internist, for instance, I have a concierge internist. So if I'm not there for a year and a half, I will get a phone call because he's not getting that annual concierge fee to remind me of my annual checkup and the fact that if I want to come in and continue to have whatever prescriptions I need filled, which luckily, knock on wood, it's just finasteride, that I have to come in, pay my annual fee, and that's it. If it was just straight old school insurance internist, I wouldn't hear from this motherfucker for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless they really needed you to come in for some reason, for business. So that's just the way it works. And, you know, I don't want you to get into your head that, oh, wait, okay, I got this call. Don't let the light bulb go off and say, maybe I'll do it. You know what I mean, Dante?
Yeah, true, of course, yeah.
Just do it if you really want to do it, but it just seems like shit, man.
And sometimes that's all it takes is just the call to plant that seed. Like, you know, Spencer and I may have talked you out of it already, but then that call just puts that seed right back in there. Right? And sometimes that's all it takes.
And look, I want to make it clear. This woman gave you a very reasonable response. It's a very nice, they have a nice culture over there. It's a nice place. Dr. Feinberg is a very respectful, you know, nice man. But he's a business person. And you just have to, people have to understand that. I just wanted to express that to you, not just for your sake, Dante, but for everyone who's listening. Everyone who's getting follow-up calls from their hair transplant surgeons. Now, if the surgeon picked up the phone and said, hey, man, listen, I just want to see how you're doing, that would be a different story. That would be great. And I actually know of a couple of guys who do that.
I think it's worth noting that if the clinic has a solid post-op follow-up program, then they should be contacting you just to make sure that you're okay and you don't have any concerns or questions up to a year after the surgery.
Right.
But if it's just a random, like if he, you know, he said he had his 10-month or a recent follow-up, then then there's no reason legitimately other than to get you in the, you know, back on the schedule. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I understand. But she was actually she's actually a nurse. The woman that called me, and she actually did, you know, worked on. She put a lot of, you know, she was one of the two girls that put all the, you know,
the grafts in.
Yeah,
and look, like I said, and you have to also understand, a lot of people in the hair transplant world, a lot of these technicians or nurses or PAs, they wear several hats in the clinic, and they could be the hair transplant technician and the online representative. They could be the online representative, and they can be the cold call person and the nurse. You know, they could be the person who administers your, you know, initial anesthetic if they are allowed to, if they're a PA or a nurse, and then they're picking up phones in the back. That's the way these clinics operate, especially the smaller ones. So, you know, I actually saw a complaint. I read the forums on Tuesdays of a pretty well-known clinic in Europe. And one of the complaints that this guy's complaint, and obviously we like to verify to make sure that complaints are real, is that the person who operated on him at one point was the front desk receptionist when he first went in for the consultation.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of shit that happens, even in decent offices. You know, I'll give you another story. I remember a guy that I used to work with chose to separate for several reasons. Not that there was any real bad work being done, but just some ethical issues that I had. And I used to speak to this one person all the time, and she would pick up the phone. And then I asked for her when I called the office, and the new receptionist said, oh, she's learning how to do surgery. Today's her first day, and she's working on a patient learning how to do surgery. Working on a patient learning how to do surgery.
That's confidence inspiring to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what you want. That's
what this industry is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Yeah, that's why I like his office, because of, you know, he's got these girls who've been there 5-10 years like that. But what I think I'm going to do, though, is I think, you know, I'm pretty, you know, you guys have got me, I guess in, how could I put it? You know, when you go through like the 12-step program and you're kind of at the end and you're okay for a while. I'm okay for a while, I think, right now. But, you know, I think down the road maybe.
You may slip. You may slip again.
Fall off the wagon. But what I'll do is I'll either like email Joe and ask him like privately for a recommendation.
You need a hair transplant sponsor, my man. And Joe may be your guy.
Yeah, I would like to get some feedback from Joe on, you know, where I could just try to take one final shot, you know, if it comes to that. But,
you know, I almost feel bad when I hear that. Not that I mean, Joe has the ability right now to be in contact with people personally. You know, I would do that for many years of my career, but because the American Hair Loss Association has become so big, and the traffic to the Bald Truth and Bald Truth Talk, the amount of people that want to speak to me personally it's just overwhelming, where I basically had to just cut it off. And, you know, our staff will answer questions and stuff like that. But that's another reason why I wanted to bring Joe on and bring him in, because I think it's important that people have that ability to speak to someone personally who has Joe's credentials. My staff can help a lot, and they will answer as many questions as possible. But Joe, I would say, has a pretty good track record as far as talking people out of surgery.
And I have to say, it's an interesting point about the time factor. Dante, if you want to talk to me about your situation, sooner is better than later, because I am getting, lately it's getting tough. Like it's taking longer and longer for me to respond to people. So I do recommend just let's talk. I mean, send me some photos so I've got something to reference. You can use my second opinion service on my website after you register, and I'm happy to go through it with you and just give you, a more comprehensive view as opposed to just talking on the phone.
Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate that. That would be great.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
Just one other quick thing. And earlier, Spencer, you were talking about PRP, and I know some guys that are doing PRP, but they're younger than me. And at my age, and you can tell. This is a question for you guys. I think I'm past that, because every hair in my head is transplanted. I don't know that it's gonna. If I started with PRP, I've never tried it, that it would have any positive effect, just because of my age and the way it is.
I can tell you, it depends. And here's the thing: it's kind of like with finasteride. I don't remember if are you on finasteride now or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
When hair transplant patients, long-term hair transplant patients, use finasteride and they are successful with it, the key is they want to maintain as much of their donor wreath, their donor area as possible, the hair that's been moved, which is from your donor, as well as your existing hair, in order to maintain the best possible overall appearance and fullness of the transplant. A guy like Joe, who was completely bald, Norwood 6, chooses to continue to use finasteride to maintain that incredible hairline that he has, because he knows as well as anybody in the industry that hairline could begin to miniaturize in time if he's not using finasteride. Now, the same may be, it may apply, and we're not sure yet, to PRP, if PRP is beneficial for you. And it really depends. That's in my view, it's more of a hit or miss. At least with finasteride, clinically, there is obviously some very strong data showing how effective it is and what percentage of men it's effective for. With PRP, we don't have that data yet. So to answer your question, is it out of the realm of a possibility for you to have some sort of success with PRP at this point in your life? I would say no. But we just don't have the data.
And I can tell you from experience, having exact same situation as your own, where basically all the hair on my top of my head in the Norwood 6 pattern plus is transplanted. I did have PRP, and it was with Jerry Cooley down in Charlotte, who's one of the original guys that got into this, and he does have an effective protocol. I documented on my YouTube channel. You can find the video. I did go through a PRP, knowing full well that it might not do anything for me. He told me up front. We talked about it on camera. But there are some miniaturized hairs in the bottom half of my crown that we thought, well, maybe that will thicken up, or maybe my part line will thicken up, which is the demarcation between my transplanted and native hair. And it did make an improvement. It wasn't like a drastic improvement, but we weren't expecting that. The transplanted hair itself didn't really see any sort of difference, but of course at this time my transplant hair is fine to begin with. So very minimal improvement from my own experience.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, Dante. Well, look, you always sound, sadly, you always sound disappointed after you speak to us, but we're here to give you the truth. And you know what? The truth sucks.
It does.
You know?
This whole thing.
The truth fucking
you guys
sucks.
Are great. Wow, I'm sorry. Say that again.
No, the truth fucking sucks. I understand it, but you know what? It's and I tell people in the field all the time. Look, in my view, in the end, everyone's in the field to make money, right? That's just the way that it is. The doctors, technicians, you know, I make a living doing what I'm doing, whatever it is. I've always believed that in the end, it may take a little longer, but you make a hell of a lot more money telling the truth and providing good medicine than trying to make that quick buck and fucking people up and guiding them in the wrong direction. Most guys don't follow that rule. There's a reason why I've been doing this for more than 20 years. And it's because the truth, you know what? The truth sells.
The truth sells, and it's satisfying getting the truth out and having, you know, those people where you see the light bulb goes off in their eyes, right? It's like, wow, oh shit, that makes sense. Yeah. And then there is a satisfaction to knowing that you have helped someone make the right decision based on the truth, based on facts. And like Spencer said, I mean, it's the truth is the best medicine and is more of a long-term business model as well.
Listen, at one point you're going to have another transplant, Dante, and here's the thing: at least you're going to be fully prepared for everything that you know. You're going to be fully prepared for any consequences, and also you waited the right amount of time. You're not going to get it until you're completely ready, as opposed to jumping in before you should have had it done.
Right.
That's true.
So we can't really talk people out of surgery. Sometimes we can. And I tell surgeons this all the time. People who want surgery will probably eventually have it, but they're going to be much better patients because they're going to be fully informed once they decide to follow through.
Yeah.
All right, man?
Yes, sir. And you guys just know, and I'm sure you already do, but you make this whole situation much more bearable, which is great.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dante.
And I would ask you to do my taxes for free, but I don't want you to see how much money I make.
Okay.
All right, Dante.
Thanks.
Take it easy. All right.
Talk to you guys soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks for calling.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer.
Hey. Who's this?
George.
George. Holy cow.
George.
How are you, man?
It's really strange, man. I'm looking at you on YouTube. I tried to get on your program to catch up with you guys a week or two ago, and dude, I tried to get on through TuneIn on my iPhone, and the whole thing was just a cluster F, and it all went sideways. And now you guys came up for a couple of seconds, and then the thing crashed. And I was trying to find you on your website, I couldn't get the stream going. It's weird. I'm sitting here surfing around on my computer and watching some news stuff, and then I flipped over and was looking at some YouTube stuff. And then I saw this Joe Tillman live stream, and I'm like, damn, I can't believe I was sitting right here. I was like killing myself trying to find a way to get to you guys, and I just happened to stumble onto it.
That's so weird. I don't understand. The Bald Truth feed works perfectly. TuneIn feed for like the majority of the world works perfectly. You can listen to iTunes Radio. You can listen on iHeartRadio.
Look, I got a really good computer, man. I've got a really good Sony Vaio computer. I don't know what the problem was, but I was trying desperately to get through the Bald Truth website and through Andrew's links.
So what would happen when you pressed? I'm just curious. When you go to the Watch Live page on the Bald Truth, what would you get?
The stuff just wouldn't load.
That's weird. It's possible you may have to upgrade your what is it called? Your
Flash player.
Flash player, yeah. You may have to.
Right. I watch so many videos. It's probably the case. But I wanted to tell you.
And you know what? I will tell you that porn will fuck up your whole thing. So you got to stop with the porn.
Oh my gosh, you're funny. It's so cool. I'm looking at you two on the YouTube window here. There's a little delay going on. I think that the YouTube video feed? Yeah, the YouTube feed is delayed a few seconds.
Well, what you want to do is you want to turn down the sound. There's always going to be a delay.
I did.
Yeah, and just listen to us through the phone.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I figured it out because I could see your laugh was delayed. But I'm seeing your compadre there, Mr. Tillman. I've never spoken with that gentleman, and I've just been very impressed with a few videos of his I've seen. He's a really impressive guy. I've been listening to you on been listening to your podcast some and enjoying that. But look, man, I just want to call and say
Hold
hello.
on.
Don't
Wait a
take
second.
lot of your time.
You have a podcast, Joe?
Oh, you didn't get the memo?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I mean, I've been listening to the All Truth podcast.
I know. I'm just fucking around.
So anyway,
yeah.
I see you guys on the split screen, so I take it you're in different geographic locations. And now I see Mr. Tillman and you laughing, so I see the delay. My question was this, man.
He's like one of these guys that goes to a magic show and gives away their fucking trick. You know.
I had a couple of things I wanted to throw at you to open up some discussion. First thing, before I get to the main stuff, though, I need you to give me, back in the day, I'm still doing the original hair stuff that I got turned on to from your book that I read back in the freaking 90s. You turned me on to the topic in the Kobren.
Right.
I've been using it all these years, and I can still dummy up my hair where it looks like I've got a massive amount of hair.
Yeah.
I can style it because I still got enough in the front hairline that I can style it where it literally looks like I have it's so funny. I had to go to an event the other day, so I took my cap off, and I got a shower, got a shave, got dressed. I dummied my hair up, and I didn't have a chance to get the haircut, so the side was like super, super thick, like the Bozo the Clown thing.
Yeah.
So I'm combing it all forward and then boofing it up in the front, tying it all together, and I have to smash the sides down. And when I got through, I had the freaking hair helmet thing going on, the jokey, the hair helmet thing. I went to this event in Pensacola, Florida, came back home. I go to Walmart that night, and some black guy out front selling DVDs, he meets me in the door. He's like, dude, you got incredible friggin' hair. I can't believe how awesome your hair is. I'm like, it's a hair helmet. Guy doesn't realize how much makeup's in my head.
Yeah, dude, I get this shit. I get this shit. I talk about on the show. I get that all the time, and I'm just like, you have no fucking clue, dude. And
people look at my hair. They're like, you don't have any hair loss. I said, you don't have a clue.
Well,
it's a whole thing.
The first thing I say, especially if it's a woman who compliments my hair, I go right into the whole thing, the paint job, whatever it is, don't touch it. And I want to just see the reaction, and that'll give me the clue as whether or not I should take it any further. Common law, I'm just kidding, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before I run out of time, I got three things I got to throw at you, and then I'm gonna let you guys get into it, and I'll bow out and just listen, and let you talk amongst yourselves, as the Saturday night skit used to say. So here's the problem. You turned me on to the topic in the Kobren.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, go ahead, man.
You turned me on the topic in the Kobren. It's been working great for me for many, many years. So I go to make my order, and now I found out that, the Spencer Forest company that was doing the topic and the Kobren, they have discontinued Kobren. And they're saying that there's certain ingredients. Now, I don't know if the FDA's gotten on their butt. Maybe there's metals or something, some kind of pigments in there that are coming under salt from the. I'm just saying this. I don't know. Maybe there's questionable ingredients that the FDA is getting after them about, or they're worried about toxicity or something. I don't know. But they're saying there's certain ingredients that are no longer available, and they're not going to have my medium brown Kobren anymore, which I use to scalp to mask the scalp,
right.
Shine. And also it helps kind of coat the hair, so when you dump the topic in, it binds better. And when I get through with all of it, I mean, hell, it can even be lightly raining and the stuff won't run down my forehead or anything. But I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? Now, that stuff you turned me on to, I tried one time, the derm match, shit didn't work for me, man.
Right.
It didn't work. I couldn't make it work.
Well, Kobren is actually more like a paint. It's like a heavy makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I called the topic people, and I got one of the executives. Some girl tried to jerk me around on my order, and she gave me a lot of crap, and I got really pissed. So I demanded to speak to supervisor, and she tried to obstruct me, and I really came down on her. So she brings supervisor on the phone. So I'm making buddies with this guy, and he tells me, look, it's no longer available. I want you to try this other product. They've got their their spray-on hair, the Ronco, their version of the Ronco spray-on hair stuff.
Yeah,
and so he sends me a complimentary can of this stuff, right? And I bought some of this crap from them like 15 years ago. It's been sitting in there in the bathroom for 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So he sends me a complimentary can. I want to stick with my Kobren, so I wanted to know if you or Mr. Tillman know what the hell has gone down with Kobren and why the crap's no longer available. If not, can you guys help me find an analogous product to replace it? So that's number one. The other two things is, I'm trying to get caught up on what's been going on your show with the podcast. So if I've asked,
well, you know, let us answer that question first.
I don't want to get shut out on time. I just want to throw out what the other topics are, so you can.
It's cool. You won't.
Time usage.
It's all right.
Okay,
here's the thing. As far as the Kobren is concerned, there's nothing that I've heard that would lead me to believe that there was any type of carcinogen or any type of ingredient that was causing any harm. However, we don't know. It's more likely that the product may not have been selling the way that it was at one point. And just like many other products, they'd either discontinue the product or they change the ingredients or they just, want to move on to something else and focus on what their biggest sellers are. Kobren is a little old school, and I think a lot of younger hair loss sufferers are going to gravitate more towards the fibers, products like Derm Match, and they're not using the full-on paint the way us old-timers used to use.
Well, I think they're also going to gravitate to products that have a name they can pronounce.
Right.
But hey, Spence, when you wrote your book, man, you pointed out that Kobren was used by the Hollywood makeup artists for decades, to hide to hide the thinning of scalps of guys like Steven Seagal and people like that.
Right, but look at poor Steven. I did point it out. It's true, but look what happened to him. But yeah, listen. Here's the thing. When I wrote that book, first of all, that was the second edition of the book. That was in 2000. That was 18 years ago. This is what we had. We had Propecia, we had minoxidil, and we had head paint and fibers. That was it.
I had the 95 version of your book, bro, from like back in 95 or 96.
98. That was the first publication.
Okay,
this is why it's the 28th year. Okay. It was March of 1998. The book was published by Simon & Schuster, the first book. Pocket Books. Right. Pocket Books was the original imprint, and it was a mass market paperback, which was the smaller paperbacks. And the reason I'm telling the story is because it did so well that it went to a trade paperback, which is unusual. Usually it goes, this is how books are usually printed. It's either, if it goes to paperback initially, it goes to trade paperback, and then it goes to mass market, and that's when they start selling it in supermarkets and Walmart and shit like that. This went in the other direction. So that was pretty awesome, and I want to thank all of you guys who purchased The Bald Truth over the years. But it also gave me the opportunity to add a section for Kobren, Topic, and all the other products that, at the time, Spencer Forrest was the company. And everything else out there that was being sold was kind of like secondary, so I figured I would focus on that company. To talk about an analogous product, I don't know of any products out there by name, but I can guarantee you that if you did a search online, you were going to find very similar products to Kobren that were they're probably made in other countries. And
I don't want any toxic Chinese crap, man. Sorry. I mean, I don't want any stuff with toxic chemicals or heavy metals in it. And I don't trust the foreign companies, man, particularly stuff from Asia.
Do you know for a fact that Kobren was manufactured in the United States?
I have no idea where the hell they made the stuff.
All right, well, there you go. And you know what? The vast majority of fibers that are being put out there, I'm not saying theirs are because I don't have the facts in front of me, but let's put it this way. If I decide to sell fibers, I could have exactly what Topic is, or I can use a cotton fiber blend, ordered from China, cost me shit, put my name on it, put the American Hair Loss Association seal on it, and all you motherfuckers will be buying it from me.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh my God.
And the next time you tune into the show, there's a camera showing a sign on the door, "Gone fishing."
Yeah, and that would happen. And you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
This is how I feel about it. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with that, and maybe one day I will. People contact me all the time. Listen, I'm not going to say who. I was contacted by an old school dude, guy that was on television all the time, and now he wants to get back into the business. And we talked about putting a fiber brand together. Now, if we decide to do this...
I remember that.
Yeah. If we decide to do this, it is going to be a massacre. It doesn't matter how well branded Topic is, or Kobren was, whatever it is. It's a new world. This would destroy it. But guess where it all comes from? It all comes from the same manufacturer.
I don't know how you don't cash in on that, because look, you're like the top consumer advocate expert in the industry. You're the guy that's been out there looking out for us for freaking decades. There's so many people. After you turned me on the topic, over the years, I started getting exposed to different things. You talked about the Nanogen, which I think was a British product, and they were distributing it from someplace, I think in Tennessee or something. I got some of that stuff, tried it. It was okay. I even got the little sample of the Kabuki crap, tried that. It was okay. I really haven't seen that they perform a hell of a lot different. The topic, they're all like 6 of one, half dozen of another. They all seem to be performing in an analogous way, so it's going to come down to the bottom line of me, which one can give me
the only thing I don't think Kabuki has any silicone in it, and I think that it's made from cotton.
George, go to my channel. Well, you're on my YouTube channel now. When you get time, go look for the video where I compared concealers.
Yes, sir.
I got Topic fibers. I got the Topic spray that was sent to you. I got Dermatch, Kobren, and I've got Nanogen, but I didn't bother using, or I think it was Nanogen. I didn't bother using it because it's all the same shit anyway. And I used my drone to hover above my head to show comparisons.
I saw some of that stuff that you did, and I thought that was incredible, because I'm a big bass fishing guy, and I see a lot of all the bass fishing guys are now into like using drones and stuff when they're out on lakes or like hovering over the lakes or out fishing. So the whole drone thing is a pretty creative thing. I think I saw part of that, Mr. Tillman, so I will go back and review that again. So if you guys could try to help me find...
Here's something called... Here's a Kobren alternative. It's called Echo Bell Alopecia and Hair Loss Masking Lotion. It's ECOBELL.
Hold on, since I got carpal tunnel, man. Let me write here. So ECO what?
BELL. It's Alopecia and Hair Loss Masking Lotion.
These names
and hair.
Just look up Echo Bell Alopecia Masking Lotion.
Okay, masking lotion. Do you know? You've never heard of it before. You don't know anything about it.
This is not a product endorsement.
Yeah, this is not a product endorsement. It's just it's just a alternative. I can almost guarantee you, it has similar or the same ingredients.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing that. I mean, I tried to look it up online. Obviously, I know how to use the search engine. I just didn't see anything, and I thought maybe you guys might have already in your head an analogous product. Just keep your ear to the ground, if you would, and let me get on the next topic, because I don't want to hog your airtime. Been watching, as you know, especially I'm into the anti-aging health and wellness nutraceutical thing. I've been watching a lot of health and wellness webinars lately. Man, the stem cell stuff is coming on. There's some amazing stuff going on. Of course, a lot of these webinars about the one called the sacred plant, about people, curing all sorts of illnesses with cannabis. And then we got into the stem cells and got into the stem cell series. Everything from cancer cures, or to fixing joints, to fixing Parkinson's and MS. I mean, all kinds of amazing stuff people are having. They had in this stem cell series a couple of cosmetics surgery doctors out in La La Land, where you are, Spence, where one woman was talking about how they were injecting stem cells and getting some really good hair regrowth results. The other thing is, I'm sure you've already heard all about it. You probably had a million calls, so I apologize, about this thing where the Japanese figuring out using the silicone oil from their anti-foaming oil from their French fry stuff is a
it's the same. It's the same anti-emulsifying. It's a oil that's
it's an anti-emul. Anyway, it's a stuff that prevents foaming of the oil, and they're using it as a substrate in vitro to grow human dermal papilla cells or something or another. So, I mean, is this, is either one of these things showing promise as being the holy grail of unlimited donor without having a transplant?
It's just going to take another 5 years. That's it, and it's all going to be over. I'm just kidding.
This tells you how old school George is when he talks about the unlimited donor.
Yeah.
I've not heard that term in forever.
Yeah.
No one uses unlimited donor anymore as a reference to this technology. So, for you guys listening, that is like, this proves that George has been around forever, because you start looking that up, no one's been talking about it for years. But look, like Spencer said, it's another 5 years. all of it shows promise.
And by the way, that was tongue in cheek. As you know, everything is always another 5 years. So
of course.
Well, that's Mr. Tillman. You have since I've never spoken to you before, I have to tell you this quickly, and you'll get a laugh out of this. I came my path to Spencer Kobren's door. By the way, I want to see the I want to see the Kobren Tillman, the Kobren Kabuki. The Kobren Tillman Kabuki product.
It would be the Kobren Kabuki, and I'm just kidding. Maybe, you never know, Joe.
It would be the Kobren fibers in the Tillman holding spray.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you got your hybrid system with branding with your names, because you've established your dominance in the industry. Here's the thing, Joe Tillman. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that will make you laugh. My path to Spencer Kobren's door started in 1991 when, at age 29, I went to New York and became a fashion model. And I go up there, and I'm trying to break in the industry, and I shoot a portfolio, and I go to all the great agencies, and they say, "When you move to New York?" I said, "Offer me the money. I'll be up here." Well, they had a recession going on, so they said, "Go back home to Alabama. Go back home and finish your portfolio and move back up here. We're anxious to work with you." So I come back home, find the best photographer in town, ready to rock and roll, right, to launch this career. And my late grandmother looked at my hair one day under the front porch step, and she was a retired cosmetologist. She said, "You're losing your hair." And then began the nightmare. I'd had like this massively thick hair, so thick you couldn't even run a brush through it, and everybody always commented about it. But my dad, my late father, was hypocritically bald, but I was always told I would never lose my hair by my style. So your hair is so thick. I was actually losing it all through my 20s, but didn't, like Spence said, by the time you don't really recognize it until you've lost 50% of it or more. So it suddenly, I'm about to launch this career at 29. I discovered I'm losing my hair. So I went into panic mode, went to dermatologist, got diagnosed with androgenetic alopecia. I was a science student in college. I was pre-professional at one time. So I started doing my research, trying to find an answer. I tried to get in the drug trials for Merck. My dermatologist at the time was formerly the chairman of the American Academy of Dermatology. He tried to get me in the Merck trial. They'd closed it. I was continuing to lose hair, lose ground. Finally, I got a guy I grew up with, a cousin who was a physician, to write me a script for ProScar. I started, chopping up the pills, found Spencer's book, read it, started chopping the pills up, got on the treatment. I'd lost a lot of ground, but started regaining ground with a combination of Propecia and minoxidil. Long story short, man, that's what led me to him. And at the time, I was watching all these doctors and scientists on television on hair loss programs, and Spencer appeared on one of them. It was called Sex, Lies, and Toupee Tape. You remember that one, Spence?
Yeah.
Blast from the past. And so I'm listening to all these doctors and scientists, and you know what every one of these bastards said? Every damn one of them. You know what they said? The doctor, they were interviewed by, "Doctor, when do you think we'll have a cure for hair loss?" "Oh, within 2 to 5 years, we'll have a pill you can take. You just grow all your hair back." And then 2 to 5 years later, I'm watching another program, and they would interview a different doctor or scientist, and they'd say, "Well, what do you think?" He said, "Well, within 2 to 5 years, we'll have a pill you can take." They've been 2 to 5 yearing me since 1991.
And what I said was, all these motherfuckers are out there to fucking scam you, and they're just and all these motherfuckers who are out there saying 3 to 5 years, who are actually in academia, are just trying to maintain some relevance so they can continue to get grants. That's it.
Exactly. The closest one I've ever saw, one time Spence had on a doctor, a scientist, and I come on the program. I'm one of the guys in the peanut gallery listening, right? But, I had a science education, so I was trying to ask him questions that interested me. And I asked this doc, I said, "Hey, doc," I said, "You ever heard of teratoma?" "Yes, George, I know what a teratoma is." And, these big old bowling ball tumors they pull out of people's bellies, and they slice them open, and there's teeth, hair, and tongues, and eyeballs, and everything else growing in this. Any kind of tissue in the body can be growing inside these things.
Yeah, I think Joe has one of those.
Thanks.
I asked the doctor, I said, "Why in the hell can't you guys figure out what the hell genetically is making this hair grow inside these tumors?" And since it would be our own genetics, there wouldn't be a graft versus host, reaction, immune reaction thing. Why can't you guys figure out how to, grow unlimited hair like growing those freaking tumors? "Well, we're actually looking at that, George." I was BS from these guys for decades, but now we know what the stem cells.
Look, they have to write a paper to get the fucking grant, and they have to get the grant. And
exactly.
And essentially what they do is they will then finesse the application for the grant so that they can get enough money to ensure that they're paying their staff and that they're getting paid themselves and that they can continue
and they're in no hurry to solve the problem because of all that you just described.
So they can continue to sit in that lab, with their white coats and do their fucking thing. I'm not saying they don't want to find a cure because they eventually make a lot of money if it happens, but it's just the way that it works. And they're like, hey, wait a second. Now I have tenure. Now I'm the go-to person. I can go out. I can get loaded. I can come back, come in my lab, do my thing. That's all that fucking matters. There's not one guy sitting there saying, I am going to die. This is going to be, if this is the last thing I do on the planet, I'm going to cure hair loss. Those guys, in my view, don't exist.
The only reason I know that they really haven't solved it is because if they had the top globalist Illuminati guys, including the British royal family, who are all tied up with them, and with the Dutch royal family, and all, they're all members of this global elite, bankster elite. You look at the prince. What's his name? The guy that married the ugly chick. Prince Charles' son. What's the oldest son's name?
Yeah, William. And I'm very offended that you said she's ugly, but go ahead.
Married the ugly chick?
She is ugly, man.
Hold on. Hold on, Joe. You say your picture's back, but I don't have your picture, so we may have to. I may have to reboot, or I may have to call you back because I don't see your picture here.
See, I'm trying to. Sorry, George.
I hear him, but he's disappeared from the YouTube screen. But yeah, Prince William's wife, but Prince William, the guy with the ugly wife, that dude's going like bald as hell, man. And those people are worth billions, probably if not trillions. So,
dude, let me tell you. Let me tell you when you know this is over. A, it's going to be on the cover of Time magazine, and B, if you try to find us, I'm telling you, there's going to be a picture of a cartoon like caricature of me with a fishing rod. And that's it.
Well, I'm a big fishing guy, so you can come down here and go fishing with me.
All right. You will never, no one will ever hear from me again. I will be so gone. I don't even know why I'm still fucking here, to be honest with you. I think about it.
Hey, Chris Spence, what about Angela Cristiano? I saw something recently about her, with the rats. She painted half of the body of the bald rats, and the hair grew on one side. I know she had.
Look, she has alopecia areata. She's doing really great work. And she's making progress. And I think one of the major breakthroughs is in alopecia areata using these drugs for arthritis. What are they called? They're anti-inflammatory, but they're I can't think. Anyway, so.
I know the stuff you're talking about. I can't bring up. They're COX-2 inhibitors or COX inhibitors.
There's two drugs.
Oxygenase inhibitors.
Two drugs that are already on the market. One is Zaltran. Jesus Christ. Yes.
Valtrex.
No, Valtrex. That's for your herpes, man. Well, anyway, if Joe was here, he'd be able to help me with this. Maybe. But anyway, all I can tell you is the work that they're doing is incredible. And I do think that there's a real chance for people with alopecia areata now, except these drugs do carry some pretty significant side effects. So, people may have to make a choice of, okay, do I want to have alopecia areata universalis, or do I want to potentially risk having some long-term adverse side effects and live a more comfortable life and a more normal life? Because some people... that's a pretty significant autoimmune disease. And again, this is these drugs act as to help to repair or to block the autoimmune response for arthritics and now for people with alopecia areata. So it's pretty amazing. So she's done some pretty great work there, along with Yale University. She's definitely gone and I think has done some good work with androgenetic alopecia, but she's not there yet. So her work has been outstanding, but honestly, if she cured hair loss, hey, Spence, listen, it's cured. Don't say anything yet. I'll let you know when I want to come on the show. And that would be it. And then she'd be on, the cover of Time magazine We do
and they should be a trillionaire and should be
we would
king of the world.
We would do the end of the Bald Truth, and then you may see us get married, and that's it.
Dude, I better get an invitation to the end of the Bald Truth party when the cure comes. I better get my invitation.
Oh, when the cure? Sure, absolutely. We're gonna have a big party at Joe's place. I'm trying to call him right now because he's lost his thing.
And we'll have to even go get Joe from
Staten Island.
Staten Island. We'll have to go dig him up.
Sadly, we may have to wheel that guy in because I don't even know what's going on.
We may have to wheel him in, man.
I honestly don't know what's happening with Joe. I mean, he just kind of.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm really sorry to hear that. And I've heard, I've been trying to catch up with you the last few weeks of podcast. I've heard a couple of the old guys from back in the day, some of the regulars and stuff, and it was cool to hear, how some of them have progressed. That kid that got married and had one of the guys that got married
Destin,
and had a wife and kid. And, and I remember you catching up with him, and that was really I got kind of misty-eyed to see how the poor guy had, he had overcome all this crap and really, done some great stuff with his life. But so this thing with the stem cells and with this thing with the Japanese with the dermal papilla cells, it has the potential to be the holy grail, but we're back in the 2 to 5 year waiting period cycle again.
I would say so, and I'd say it depends. Listen, if something could be fast tracked, then it's going to be fast tracked. But right now, I wouldn't hold your breath. I do think that we are making progress. Science is making progress, and who knows? I mean, if they do human trials. And Japanese are actually able to prove, and they do believe that anti-emulsifying agent will work as well in humans as it does in mice, then that would be fucking fantastic. And that that'd be it. But it ends up all being all about the money. They have to figure out how are they going to be able to use something that's already on the market for another application. Then they have to make sure that it's could be used for this application, and somehow get a stranglehold on that shit so they can make money from it.
Right. Well, look, man.
Hold on, Joe.
I can take those.
Go ahead. Say that again, Joe.
I just want to see these fucking mice with all the hair that's been growing because you can make money on them just selling them as freaks.
Dude, we could have a mice freak show.
I mean. Can you imagine the Instagram account?
The Japanese sell glowing cats. They sell cats that glow in the dark.
Dude, we could do a live stream of having these mice in a cage and injecting the stuff and watching. People will watch the hair grow.
Oh my God! It would be like watching water boil. They would sit there and actually
right?
Absolutely.
Watch
we could start an entire forum of that shit, and people would watch it. All right, George. Always
they're dating ourselves. It'll be like the sea monkeys, right?
Yeah, listen.
Dating ourselves like the sea monkeys.
You're dating yourself, dude. Because I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. I know what sea monkeys are. Listen, George.
Yes, it was great catching you. Hey, Mr. Tillman, it was a pleasure to finally speak to you, sir. And I really enjoy your creative videos. And
thank you very much.
I'm glad I finally got to meet you.
Outstanding.
George, good luck, and you sound well. And I will talk to you. Don't be a stranger. Call in whenever you want.
I will do that. Hopefully, now that I've located you guys, now you're on starting at what 7 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday night.
8 o'clock Eastern. 8 o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock. That's right. 8 Eastern to 7 Central, where I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, dude.
Well,
so George, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications.
I'm already subscribed, bro. I've been subscribed. Yeah.
Right on. Well, there you go. That's why it popped up.
So, thanks for your creative work. Keep up the cool creative stuff you're doing. It's entertaining. And Spence, tell the significant other I said hello and hope you guys are doing well. Spencer, you got to get the hell out of California. That hellhole is imploding. You got to get the hell out of there, man.
Dude, I will live here until it implodes. I love the weather. I don't mind paying the taxes.
The weather's great, man, but the place is it's gone psycho, man, and the politicians there are friggin' insane.
Dude, I have my own. I have my own little compound. I'm building fucking walls. That's it. I don't need Trump to build the wall. I'm building.
Brother, we got plenty of guns, man. We'll help you build your.
I don't need Trump to build the wall. I'm building my own. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Hey, you guys be good.
All right. Take care.
Take care, George.
Bye-bye.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Let's see who this is.
Old school, George.
Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, man, what's up? Unless you speak, we cannot hear you.
And he hung up.
Hey, man.
Nope.
I hear that. I think you're on a cell phone. Can you hear us?
This is Nick. Can you hear me?
Nick, where are you
There
calling
you are.
from?
Detroit, Michigan. How are you guys doing?
All right, man. Welcome, Nick from
Outstanding.
Detroit. We're doing well. What's going on?
Sorry, my connection's better now. And actually, this is related to the ethics behind the industry. I'm a fairly young individual. I'm only 29 years old. My loss is very minimal, in my opinion. But my question is I haven't been doing too much research. This is definitely something that's been new, probably the last 3 months or so. And
You're
from
fucking
the
lucky, man. You
individuals-
found us.
Yeah. The last 3 months or so, I've been looking a lot at the photos related to clinics. And my thing is I feel like almost most of the clinics that I've looked at different pictures from, that not just the clarity of it, but the angles as well. And how do you go about looking to see the actual terms of a good result of a transplant or the results of it?
You want my honest
honest
opinion? This is an opinion that many of the doctors who are part of my organization may not like to hear. And as everyone knows, doctors pay an annual dues to be part of the IHRS. But you really want to know what's going on? You fucking see patients in person.
That's
exactly what my thing was. I like some of the things I see, like literally 2 pictures of it, and I just can't make my opinion on that based without being able to see it in person versus one or two photos I have.
It's like this, Nick. My history in the industry is I help to set the standards for how proper photos and video should be taken, because I identified this issue a long time ago. Like I was,
and he's very modest about that, by the way.
I'm completely, absolutely. You can tell how I'm turning, blushed, but no, I mean it's a very important subject to me. I've got videos on it on my YouTube channel. I've got cheat sheets on how to take photos for yourself when you're trying to get consultations with clinics. But you need to look for more than just a simple one before, one after. There's so many factors that you got to consider when you're looking at photos and video that, it is by far the better choice to just, hop on a plane, a train or a car. Sorry, that almost sounded like
automobile.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it is in your best interest to spend the money. If you're going to be spending thousands of dollars on a hair transplant that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, spend a few $100 and travel to go see people. And the first way to do that is obviously to contact the clinic that catches your eye with their video and photo presentation and ask them straight up, do you have patients that I can speak with? And you got 2 things that are going to happen. Some clinics are going to say, no, we don't give out that information because it violates patient confidentiality, which is complete horseshit, because any clinic is going to have patients that have agreed in writing to give out their name and number because they have agreed to talk to other patients. That's the way it works. So if a clinic says, well, no, we can't do that because it violates confidentiality, it means that they're hiding something.
But also realize, and I think this is important to note, that any clinic that signs off, any patient who signs off on that is a happy patient. So you're only being given the information from happy patients. Now, it's good to hear a good story with a good ending, and you could also get an idea of how the patient was treated, and from the initial contact to reception to how they were treated during the procedure, aftercare, all that stuff. It's vital information, but know that you're speaking to a happy patient. They're not going to give you the numbers of the unhappy patients, and every single clinic, even the most ethical clinics out there with the best surgeons and the best technicians or the best PAs, have unhappy patients. So when you're gathering all this information, you have to keep that in mind. So you want to, absolutely, Joe is right. You want to only go to a clinic who's willing to give you information and give you contact information of patients who are willing to speak with you. That's number one. Also, you need to have the right questions to ask during the consultation. My preference is, even though you're going to be meeting happy patients, is to meet these patients. See the work. See, okay, they're happy. They're telling you they're happy over the phone. You may see their pictures, but let me see what it looks like in person. And this way you're really going to be able to gauge things. Most people won't do that. In the online world, everything is like, wait a second, I can do a Skype consultation, all that stuff. I get it, and I understand why doctors do it, and it makes things easier. I understand why patients do it. But if it were my head, I don't care if I had to fly to fucking China. I would go there and I would meet with people. And I'd sit down with that doctor and look at him in the eye and ask him the questions I need to ask him. And tell him straight out, do you think I'm a real candidate? Because if you don't, and you're just trying to take my money and you fuck me up, this is not going to be a good situation.
No, and it's a long-term thing that will stick with you for your life.
That's right.
And that's why,
of course,
my whole concept for this is if you're going to be doing the research, and then, you know, a lot of the comments and concerns that I've seen from people on the internet, which I feel the internet's probably one of the worst areas to get information from.
That's actually
it is.
I couldn't have put it better myself. It is the internet is the scariest, most dangerous, the Wild West. And you're talking about people are making decisions to have surgery. From the internet. Now, this is a great platform, obviously, because you're going to hear the truth. But those are hard to find, man. Now, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said you're young and your hair loss isn't that bad. Why are you even thinking about surgery now?
Oh, no, I'm not considering surgery, but I am considering the research of it. I'm the type of person that I've always thought if I were to consider something like this, I would be more on the preventative measures part of it right now. So, you know, I've seen the different discussions of things like the minoxidil, finasteride, the topicals, and I've seen, obviously, on the internet, the people that tried to get scared because of the side effects. But like you guys said, I think it's the same thing versus a good surgery versus a bad surgery, that some people, no matter what you do to them, their expectations are so high or unrealistic that they're not going to be happy either way. I mean, they're trying to restore a hairline or restore their hair back to being like 14 years old when they're in their 30s or 40s, and that's not realistic.
And that's actually a very good observation.
Another thing that they're trying to restore sometimes is something that has nothing to do with hair. They're trying to restore a feeling or a sense of confidence that was taken away by something else in their life, like maybe they had a breakup or even divorce. I can tell you as a veteran hair transplant consultant, divorced males make up a large percentage of, at the very least, consultations, and they are a healthy portion of all hair transplant patients to begin with. And you know, a lot of times it does work out fine, obviously depending on where which clinic you go to, but not always. And I've seen cases, Nick, where the result is stunning. Like, to my eye, it is absolutely stunning, and the patient is losing his fucking mind because he thinks it's a failure. And and it's not the fault of the patient. I mean, it's just some sort of headspace that he's in. He can't understand what's going on, but surgically, and as a result, I mean, it's about as perfect as it can get. So headspace matters, right? And to reflect back onto, or circle back onto the meeting patients thing, I was going to say, patients will cherry pick the patients or clinics will cherry pick the patients for you to meet, but you still need to meet them because you need to see if the quality of the work in real life matches what you're seeing in the photos and videos. So that's another reason why you need to see these patients, even knowing full well that these are the cherry picked textbook results, right? But another thing has to do with the willingness of the clinic, and even the patient. You don't just call up a patient, after they give you the contact information and say, yeah, I want to meet you in person. I mean, offer to buy them lunch, right? I mean, they're going to be taking time out of their day to show you their head, and they may or may not be getting some sort of commission. You never know. You need to ask. But ultimately, their happiness with the result doesn't really matter as much as what you see with your own eyes as far as the result and how it appeals to you. right? So you can have some guy sitting there, saying, Jesus, it was the best thing I've ever done. And you're looking at it, scratching your head going, I don't get it. It doesn't look that good to me. That's your, that's your judgment working to your advantage. Whereas, you might see they have a great result and they're happy with it, but you're still in a position where you're judging it based on your own research. Like you're comparing it to what you see in the photos versus video in real life. That's what you need, no matter what they're telling you, how happy they are. That's what you need. You need to see it. And you need to understand what makes a hairline look natural. You need to understand what a hair transplant or natural hair transplant requires to be natural. Is the hairline filled with single hair grafts like all clinics have talked about for the past 20 years? Or is it filled with these multi-hair grafts that look like, the teeth of a comb, stocky and pluggy? I'm kind of going on a rant here, but the definition of natural has changed over the past 10 years. Spencer and I have been talking about it. And so you need to understand what natural really is, and that takes research.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And that's another thing one thing that I've always looked at when it comes to these pictures as well is, I guess with most clinics too, is I'm guessing that these final results are a year or two out. Do most clinics do pictures as well that are, let's say, 5 to 10 years after the surgery?
I want to laugh first. I just want to, dude, let me tell you something. Now, Joe will, he's worked in clinics. I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. I would say I can count on 2 hands how many times I have seen images 10 years out or even 5 years out. Oh, maybe 5 years, but 10 years out. Long-term images on any clinic's website or being posted. There's a few guys out there that do it. I've actually seen several from Dr. Michael Biener up in Saratoga, New York, who somehow was able to wrangle his patients in after 10 years. And so I've seen him post those images. But it's very rare for a lot of reasons. A lot of people move on with their lives or whatever it is. Yeah. But, to me, that is a great way to show, especially if you've been doing this for a long time, to show what the progression of hair loss and age and just how long a hair transplant can really last.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Joe, in the clinics you've worked with, how often have you seen this?
No, it is rare for the reasons that you stated, that people move on with their lives. They move. They sometimes they're not even around anymore for whatever reason. But yeah, no, it is rare. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most of most of the results that you're seeing are simply patients sending in their photos saying, okay, here's my final result, or patients coming into the clinic saying, here's my final result. They're scheduled to come in. Like you were noting, like a year after, maybe longer, but it is rare for 5 and 10 year results to be out there now.
But if I were a clinic, I would just say I would contact these old patients and I would say, hey, listen, do me a favor, send us some images. And, if you're still happy with the results, if you do that, we'll send you a gift certificate for something or another, a massage or whatever it is. Just if you can just send that to us that we could use online, because a lot of patients ask for long-term result images or people's testimonials. Would you mind doing it? I can guarantee you they can find some patients who would do that. It just takes a little bit of an effort.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, sorry. It does take a little bit of effort.
You can contradict me if you want. You've done this before, but I don't know if you've ever tried it.
I've actually got some guidelines in place. Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
What about like a hooker? Well, we'll send you to Pahrump, Nevada, for a free romp if you do this for us.
Just come back and show us your hair, for the love of God.
Yeah,
please. It's tough. It's really tough getting people to come back in. It really is.
But they don't have to come back in. Even just them saying, "Hey, this has been a good experience over the last 10 years. Maybe things got a little thinner, whatever it is."
I'm telling you,
what you guys just said is what I was thinking about.
It's like pulling teeth.
Go ahead. What were you saying, dude?
Yeah. So for example, because of the fact that a transplant is it's not ultimately going to solve the problem. It will help to a certain extent, but obviously it's not going to solve the fact that you're losing your hair in your lifetime.
Right.
But my thing is if they're doing it in an ethical way, and I guess I'll use the term like an artistic approach to taking into account the fact that you will have future hair loss, even if you're on, measures to prevent it. I mean, you can't ultimately stop nature from taking your hair. You can do as much as you can.
Oh, I don't know, man.
But
That's because
I'm just wondering.
Let me tell you something. I've been doing that, and if it stops, I'm going to be gluing some shit on or getting a transplant, whatever it is. No, but honestly, I mean, you're right. I know what you're saying.
I'm just curious what it's going to look like if, let's say that you were to do it, but the native hair falls out. That's my question: is what does that look like 5 or 10 years down the road, type of thing?
Well, that's a good point.
If they did a good job, it might look fine.
But it can look just fine if that DHT resistant hair is actually DHT resistant. If it's taken from the sweet spot, if it's implanted and the grafts are utilized in a reasonable way that is going to kind of preserve a natural look, even if all of the hair around it is miniaturized or you end up losing it completely. That's what a natural hair transplant is. You want to be able to have one procedure, and even if you choose not to go in to get it thickened, not to go in to have that second procedure, you always want that one procedure to look natural. That's it, even if it appears to be thin. And that's what we are losing in this new industry. People are bombarding the hairlines with, like they're trying to get as many grafts per square centimeter. That started happening about 8-9 years ago, and then it progressed into something that has been much worse. Extreme lowering of the hairlines, rounding of the temporal area, just a feminizing of the hairline, to make it look more youthful. Just some really crazy design work, really shitty angles. There's just a lot of bad shit going on. If you look at a guy like who's still doing about 50% of his practice with the FUT, like Bob Bernstein. Look at even some of his current results. A lot of guys would be like, that looks like, that's so thin, I would never want something like that. But you know what? Most of those results were long-lasting results after one procedure or maybe two procedures. And he created a very high hairline. It's thin, and these guys continue to progress, and it doesn't look like they had a hair transplant. It just looks like they're naturally progressing, but they still look better because their faces are framed.
And when you have a transplant on a patient that already has a little bit of loss to where you can safely go into the front half of the scalp, as they continue to lose, say they lose the crown eventually, but they still got the transplanted hair. If the transplanted hair is laid in the correct angle, the correct direction, they're properly refined so they don't look pluggy at all on their own, and the design itself is fairly conservative, then that thinning and eventual loss behind the area, it can still stand on its own. It's just you're thin up front and in the top, but you got a bald crown. There's nothing wrong with that. One of my good friends, he's a few years older than me, he has that exact pattern, and if I were to put his pictures up on my website, people would swear he had a hair transplant because of the pattern. But it's natural. It's found in nature all the time, but people don't really think of that. And he could have been like a Norwood 7 and had, say, 2,500 grafts to the entire top, and it'd be the exact same result, and it would be natural. So people have to understand what natural means. It's what you find in nature. It's not what I asked this question before. What defines natural in a hairline? And a lot of the answers were, proper answers like, well, it has to, properly frame the face based on the bone structure, and then there's angle and direction of the hairs. But then other people were saying, well, density. It's got, natural means high density. No, it doesn't. Natural means a youthful hairline. Nope, not even close. It doesn't mean anything remotely like that, because you can have the most naturally built low youthful hairline, but if it's not, if you don't take the future into account, it'll look like absolute dog shit 5, 6, 7 years in the future, because no one that's bald has this, really low strip of dense hair for a hairline. And people are losing their understanding of what natural means, and that's something that Spencer and I have talked about for a while, and it's getting worse. We're doing our best, but there's only so much we can do.
Well, wouldn't it be safe to say that for most people it'd be better to be more conservative with your hairline in order to have density more towards the middle of the scalp?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Conservative is always better, because number one, you're using less hair. Number two, you're saving money, because you're not using more hair than you would if you weren't being conservative. But it's almost like you're setting up a insurance policy for the future, when, not if, you do lose more hair. So if you're 29 years old and you're like many 29-year-olds that want your 22-year-old hairline back, there's nothing wrong with doing that if it's done properly, but you are setting yourself for the potential of more disappointment, as opposed to giving yourself a hairline that a 32-year-old would be happy with, and then letting yourself thin after that. That's what I did. Like, I was 22. I had my first 2 hair transplants, and then I lost everything behind it. It was really bald, and I had the bad work remaining. My first repair surgery when I was 31 years old could have easily just lowered my hairline and just, gone for broke. But we were conservative, and we took a more sensible route with that first procedure. And I could have stopped right there, and even today it would have looked fine. But most people don't do that. They're being sold the dream. They're being sold the what's the saying, Spencer? The sizzle.
I'm sorry, I just woke up from my nap.
That's okay.
Yeah, they're actually they're being sold the sizzle as opposed to the steak, and that is, the industry now is worse, and people find this hard to believe. I would say it is at least as bad as it was 25 years ago. Probably worse, because there's so much more volume being done, and so many more surgeries being performed, and so many more turnkey, hair transplant in a box shops popping up all over the place, being done in strip malls, meta spas, shit like that. It is fucking ridiculous. And you got guys, and listen, there's nothing wrong with Real Self, but I say this. You have companies and websites like Real Self that are promoting hair transplantation like it's just like, thumbs up or thumbs down, good experience, bad experience. Every doctor on that site is looked at as they're created equal. And the truth of the matter is it's not. It's all 100% marketing. And you know how you get one of these? If you go to Joe's Facebook page, he does a video on what these credentials mean. And if you look at all these guys who are promoting Real Self top docs, you know why they're top docs? They're top docs because they've answered the most questions on Real Self. That's it.
That's it.
However, it's promoted as it's some sort of a credential. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen. Now, to give, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe, but to give Real Self credit, it's a great business model. They're not doing anything that I would say is untoward or unethical. They're in business to make fucking money, and I gotta hand it to them. However, in my view, it's the doctors who are putting this stuff up there that, I'm not saying they're unethical, but they should realize, wait a second, at least let's let our patients know what this means. When you click on the IAHS website, we are very clear, if someone carries that seal, why they are accepted, what the organization is about, and that these people pay membership dues in order to carry that seal and to be accepted. But they have to apply. They can't just carry that seal. They can't just say, hey, I want to pay you whatever we're paying you, $2,000 a month, and we're going to carry the seal. I wish I can do that, but I can't.
Yeah.
Listen, when I do, we just lost Joe again. When you see 2,000 members, then you'll know, and the Gone Fishing sign, then you know I sold out. But it's that easy. This is how people are learning about hair transplants now, unfortunately, through these mainstream cosmetic surgery sites, through these ads that are on, running on, your Facebook feed, or everyone is promising everyone the moon, as though hair transplantation is a very simple outpatient procedure. It's one size fits all. That if you're losing your hair, this is the solution to your problem. And in many cases, it becomes a much bigger problem to your problem than the solution, because you weren't a candidate to begin with.
Yep, makes 100% sense.
And that's it. I'm glad that you found us. And you sound like a smart guy anyway. You would have figured it out yourself.
I'm just, it's one of those things that if you're going to do something right, you're going to have to do the research and have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into before you make any type of decision.
A lot of people believe that they're doing the research. They really, truly believe they're doing their due diligence, but they find the wrong resources. And they
like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting that you say that, because Joe had a transplant at a time when he could have really had if he would have reached out, for instance. I'll give you an example. I had once had a online conversation with him, and he had said that he used to listen to me on the radio when I was on KLSX. Now, I'm not sure if this is before or after his hair transplant. He did ask me if there's anything that he can do to repair the scar, and I gave him an explanation, and we spoke some more. But long story short, if he would have really listened, and if he would have heard the program prior to having a hair transplant, he probably would have chosen not to have it, in my view, because he was at a point where it wouldn't have made that much of a difference in his appearance. It seemed like he was having a rapid loss. And he also is the type of guy, in my view, I would have said, look, you got the face to carry this off without having a hair transplant, and you probably won't lose any points in your career. And, the bottom line is, he didn't. Now, maybe he felt at the time he would have, but I don't think he would have. I still think he would have been able to do Fear Factor without hair. And other things. But
he looks fine the way he is.
And he even looks fine with his scar. I saw him, and I didn't want to bug him, even though he did contact me. I don't think he recognized me. I saw him at the airport. I was behind him. See that big linear scar? The guy's like a little bull, man. I mean, he walks around. It doesn't look bad at all.
Yep.
And he's lucky that the grafts weren't too pluggy, because he's able to shave his head. It looks completely clean. And it works. So my thing is, if you could shave your head and avoid having a transplant, do that first. And then second, go ahead.
Give it a try at least.
Give it a try. If you can't do with that, I tell people to try partial prosthetics, stuff like that. No one wants to do that. So it's almost like a waste of my time, because at least you could throw that out if you don't like it.
Yep.
But hair transplant is always your last resort, and you have to really do your research. You're doing it. Joe's picture is still not, he had to hang up on me, so he's not going to be able to talk for a second. But you're doing your research. It makes a lot of sense, and you sound like a really smart guy. I'm glad you found the show. If you ever decide to do anything, let us know, and I'd be more than happy to provide you with as much information as possible. But if you see that you're continuing to progress, my advice would be see a doctor and consider using medication.
I'll leave you on this last question. Actually, looking at one of the comments from the viewers, finasteride versus the topical, because I've noticed there's different clinics, Hasten and Long. I think Dr. Ballback.
Right.
I've seen it. Now, is there a substantial difference between the two?
Well, I would
using, or could you do a combination of both?
I would tell you this, that hold on, Joe, I see you. So let's see if we can make this work. I think, first of all, you have to understand that when you're using something systemically, orally, you are affecting your entire body. So, for instance, if you are trying to reduce miniaturization, you are trying to suppress DHT, or the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, you're obviously doing it throughout your entire scalp and your body. So What is that going to do? That's going to help to prevent miniaturization all over the scalp of hair loss. So say you are losing in the crown, in the hairline, mid anterior scalp, crown. You're also probably miniaturizing around the donor wreath as well. If you're just rubbing stuff on your head, even if it does work to some degree, even to a high degree, you're not going to be able to actually get the same results that you would from an oral application or an oral, an oral dosage of medication. With that said, there are guys who are afraid of side effects, or guys who they don't tolerate finasteride well. So this is when topical finasteride, in my view, comes into play. I don't think it should be your first. And again, I'm not a physician.
Well, yeah.
I'm not a physician, so let me preface this by saying this is just my opinion as a layman and someone who's been doing this for a very long time. My position is your first line of attack should always be talking to your doctor about using an oral 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. If you don't want to do that, then I think it's great that there are choices now. And there's going to be more choices on the market soon anyway.
Well, would it be safe to say,
Joe, you're back, by the way.
For example, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be safe to say that, like, let's say, since I know people have concerns with these side effects, and that's my thing with anything and everything, I always think about side effects, and I kind of like laugh about that because anything can give you a side effect, and you won't know until you actually take it.
Right.
But like, let's say you took the 1 milligram and you cut it up into smaller amounts, and then just started with a smaller amount, and then worked your way up to maybe that 1 milligram, or maybe even a half of milligram, just to see how your body reacts to that, and if you can get some type of benefit out of it.
Well,
or would you say that you should start with the 1 or 5 right off the bat?
Well, most doctors will tell you to start at the 1 dosage.
Okay.
And there's also a negligible. There's been nothing shown, at least clinically, that using 5 milligrams is going to be more beneficial. Now, again, I'm not a physician.
Okay.
But anecdotally, at least, I do believe that the drug is dose dependent. Period. I've experienced it in my own life. Joe, who we cannot hear for some reason right now, he's having some technical problems. You might want to turn on your mic, dude. Once he could speak, I'll put him back on the air. But I believe that it's totally dose dependent. In my experience, I dealt with it. Right now, I am on a 5 milligram dosage once a week. Now, you ask any doctor about that type of intermittent therapy, they're going to say, I don't even understand how that can work. Well, the reason it works, again, in my experience, is my body has been loaded up with finasteride for so many years that all I need is that 1 5 milligram dose to lower my DHT levels to the point that they stay to that level for several weeks. And even though the drug has a relatively short half-life, your DHT levels don't start to rise, and they rise, or they go back to normal very slowly. It takes about 2 weeks. So I'm able to take that 5 milligram dose once a week. I've avoided side effects that I'm aware of, and I've been able to maintain a relatively, full-looking head of hair. Yeah, it's dummied up. I use hairspray. I can't get lap dances because of it, but yeah. What are you going to do?
Don't let the stripper touch you.
Yeah, well, basically what I do is I give him
at least not in the hair.
I give him an extra 20, and I say, just don't touch the hair, okay? Or what you have to do is you have to go to go with a black stripper, and they understand that because you can't touch their hair at all, So, but no, really, I am a fan. Joe's back. I am a fan of intermittent therapy. It works, and I think your suggestion, what you just intuitively suggested, is the way to go. Start with as low a dosage as possible, and then again, I got to keep saying this because someone's going to take this clip out of context. I am not a doctor, but
100% no.
I have known people who do this. You start with the lowest dosage possible, maybe a quarter of a 1 milligram tablet, and see how your body adjusts, and then work your way up to 1 milligram. Joe, you have a lot of experience with this. Now that we could hear you, and you probably heard his question, you chime in and help.
Well, like Spencer was saying, that that there's no real documented evidence about, higher dosages being more effective. But, in my experience, in clinical experience, I'm not a doctor, but I've worked for many, or several. I have seen pretty compelling evidence that there is a correlation with dosage versus the overall efficacy. So, does this mean jump in with 5 milligrams? Absolutely not. In fact, I think I'm seeing more and more evidence where I think the weaning onto a certain frequency of intake is really beneficial. I started telling some people that were trying to figure out how to juggle existing side effects with still taking the medication, and I came up with an idea that, well, maybe instead of reducing the dosage, reduce the frequency. Start off with maybe 1 day a week, every Monday.
I usually tell them to find an 18-year-old girl.
There's that.
That helps.
That doesn't hurt. But
that's a dad joke, and I'm sorry for that. Go ahead.
It's an issue of easing yourself into it. One dosage of, say, 1 milligram or a quarter of a tablet of Proscar, which would be actually 1.25, give or take, every Monday for a month. And then month 2, if you're fine with it, then you bump it up to Mondays and Thursdays. And then month 3, if you're fine with it, do 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you can hold there, or the following month even move up to 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, or keep going until you reach what you feel is a threshold where you might be feeling something, but odds are you won't. And patients that have contacted me with this challenge of already having side effects but not wanting to stop the medication, or have stopped the medication and are afraid to get back on it, they're having success this way. And not a doctor, can't say it enough, not a doctor, but this is helping some people. I actually just got an email yesterday. Some guy heard me talking about this on the show, tried it, and he's feeling pretty good about things. So that's an alternative to consider.
Look, man, there are people online, especially now that we're doing the show on YouTube as well. You're going to get shit from the anti-propecia guys. That's the way that it is. But I would not be sitting behind this mic for more than 20 years. I would not have a book that's been published in 5 languages, that's the most read volume in the world on hair loss, if it wasn't for this fucking drug. It changed my life. I talk about it not because Merck sponsors this show. I talk about it not because I have any type of, I get no financial incentive to talk about my experience and the experience of those who have had success on this drug. It can be life-changing in a positive way, not just the negative way that you read about, prolifically online. That is a relatively new phenomenon that has been written about starting in about 2005, 2006, and then it just fucking exploded. So, look, Joe, you were on the phone with me. I'm having a glass of wine, having a hamburger outside, and some girl stops by and gives me her fucking phone number. Do you think that would have happened if it wasn't for this drug?
I can honestly say no.
Okay, so there you go. I'm 50. I'm going to be 53 years old, man.
I don't think Spencer could rock it bald. No,
that's very mean. Actually, that hurt my feelings. I'm not.
Would you do it for a certain amount of money, just to see?
You'd be the first one. You'd be gluing stuff on your head.
Oh, would I do what? Shave my head for a certain amount of money?
Yeah, let's say it's for charity.
No, I wouldn't do it for charity. I'd rather check for charity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'd rather check. But if someone was willing to give me a couple $1 million to shave my head and do, and work on the show for a few years, why not?
No, that's different.
I mean, if it was tax free.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing it for my next video.
But if it's like for kids with cancer, whatever it is, I'd rather give them $50,000 and shave my head.
True.
That's just the way that it is, and you know what? It'll help a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
I got to tell you,
more beneficial.
All these people who are cutting, these children, and this breaks my heart, that these kids are growing their hair out for years and they're cutting their ponytails off to give it to kids, to places like Wigs for Kids and not Wigs for Kids, Locks of Love. When the majority of that hair is being either sold at least according to all the reports that you read, and just can't be used. I think in the couple of decades they've been in existence, and again, I could be wrong with the dates and the times and the exact number, they've only given away about 2,000 hair pieces. However, there have been thousands of people donating their hair. Now, how much better would it be if you had some kid with cancer, alopecia areata, and you sponsored them getting a hairpiece?
Man,
that's charity, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I just went on a rant, dude. I wish you the best of luck. I wish you the best of luck. Now I know that Joe doesn't think I could rock the bald look, and I'm slightly offended. All right, dude.
Hey, I appreciate the time that you both gave me in answering my questions. I really, really appreciate it again.
Listen, we don't have any other callers, so I mean, we had to somehow string this out.
We got to stretch it out, man.
Stretch it out.
Got any more questions?
All right, dude. We'll talk to you later. Take care.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. We're going to call tonight soon, but I'll take another phone call, and we'll see how long the call is. Yeah. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this?
Yeah, hi. My name is Robert.
Robert, where are you calling from?
I am calling from, let me turn the volume down. I'm calling from Milwaukee.
Well, welcome.
Wonderful place. It's cold. Yes, thank you.
That's a cold-ass place to live, and I got to tell you, I don't envy you.
Well, the pathetic thing is that I'm actually from California, where Spencer's sitting at the moment.
That is
Work's
pathetic.
brought me here.
You're what?
Work's brought me here, so here I am.
Holy. Well, here's the good news. It's a very low cost of living, comparatively.
Yeah.
But you're dealing with a lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of cold.
Yeah. Yeah. And the people aren't the nicest in the world here either.
Really?
So, yeah, you would think it would be the opposite, but I think they're all kind of like frozen in the brain, especially this time of the year. And
well, I think there's a lot of drinking going on in Milwaukee.
Tell me you at least have good steakhouses.
Well, the Packer people weren't very happy this year, that's for sure. I can tell you that part.
Yeah. Listen, you got great cheese. I understand you have good steakhouses and some great places to eat. And everyone's getting loaded. It's so cold. Women are a little heavy. I hate to say it. Nothing wrong with heavy women, but
healthy.
They're a little healthy,
They're healthy.
Yeah.
So what can we do for you,
that's
man?
the way it works. Okay, so my story is, not that much different than everybody else's story. I've been doing research for, I don't know, let's say I first looked into hair transplant back in the 90s, and I never did. And thankfully, I didn't do it then. It's interesting how I've seen things progress in this field. But my story is that basically I started losing my hair when I was about 21. But it progressed very slowly. And I would have what you would call, starting from that time, the classic widow's peak. Very similar to what my dad had, and, and his progressed also. Well, here I am now. I'm 57 years old. And basically, I'm probably a Norwood 6, going on a 7. And unfortunately, I'm just barely getting by with the, with the kabuki stuff, and been using that for 5 years. It really is a good product, in my opinion. So, but in any event, I've been looking into the hair transplant stuff, and I've been watching Joe's videos. They're very informative. I went on your website, Joe, and you have an awful lot of good information. So I guess I've been looking into, a couple different surgeons, and I know that in the end, at least I think that Joe went to Dr. Wong to get the last thing done that he had done. And, he looks like a very good option. I've been looking at the other surgeons that you've been recommending also, and I guess one of the bottom line comes down to is how much different are all these guys on price when it gets down to it. It's kind of hard to discern, at least in my head, what they're really saying the cost is going to be in general by the way it's listed on the websites. Like there's I don't know if I should mention names now, but there's a couple guys in South Florida that I've looked into, and basically, they make some pretty good claims and this and that, but they tell you by the hair, and one guy goes as far as saying that he it's a FUT surgery, and basically, you know, he uses a microscope and everything like Joe says in the videos and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, he claims he gets more hair out of the FUT and that,
I know what you're talking about.
you know, yeah, okay. So you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Are you sure that he uses microscopes? I mean, did you talk to them, or are they showing that microscopes are being used?
That's what he showed that in one of the videos, and he mentioned the microscope.
Okay.
So,
well, I want to be clear about something. You know, in that video where I'm talking about microscopes, just because someone's using a microscope doesn't automatically mean, by definition, that they're doing super refined work. It just means that if they do have a microscope, there's no excuse not to be able to do super refined work. It all comes down, just like with any of the other tools in their toolbox, it comes down to knowing how to use that tool. And you know, I remember, it's funny, I remember back in the early 2000s when the forum wars were at their peak, and I was right there in the middle of them. We were having arguments and debates over refinement. Those were the big battles back then. Where besides FUE versus FUT, it was incision size and blades versus needles and all these small differences that in today's world mean fuck all, because right now, I mean, and you know what I'm talking about with some of the videos I've made, but it's like we've lost that edge where we have the luxury of debating and arguing about such fine details. Now it's a matter of, you know, well, who's pluggy and who's not. And the video I made that, I mean, I was really passionate about it. It was a serious labor of love, but it only covers a fraction of the reality of what I'm trying to get across. And that's the tough part. I mean, there's so much more to it. It's funny, I was talking to a guy today that was saying, well, you know, there's this clinic in Turkey, and I saw a picture of a microscope, and they're starting to use them. It's like, great, that's great first step, but it takes several years to get really proficient with using the microscopes, knowing how to use them, knowing, you know, not causing so much damage. I mean, there is an art to it. So using a microscope can still allow you to have massive amounts of hair in each graft. There's really no difference with that. I mean, loops doing mini micrografting versus microscopes using mini micrografting, it can be one and the same.
Well, I think what this I'm assuming what you're talking about is the doctor is claiming that because he's doing FUT using microscopic dissection, that he's able to move more hair, more DHT resistant hair than if he did FUE. That's frankly, in a sense, that's true. When you're having a strip, you are going with 100% of that sweet spot for at least the first strip. And some people sadly go too low, some people go too high. But if you get that sweet spot, every one of those hairs that are removed from that tissue, every follicle can then be dissected under a microscope in 3D. It's three-dimensional. And it lowers the possibility of transection, and all that hair can be used. When you're using that FUE in that same sweet spot, you have to skip areas not to develop a kind of a or not to create a moth-eaten effect, period. Right. So you can't use 100% of that sweet spot. So that's where strip really does come into play. And that's why, especially if you're older, if you understand what the downside is of having strip, if you're not concerned about shaving your head, there's a lot of variables where, you know, strip makes sense. I think it's actually a shame that marketing is causing strip to go by way of the dodo as though it is some sort of archaic procedure, when you really cannot, no matter what anybody tells you, get the same results in the end if you are a high Norwood as you can with having at least one strip or maybe two, and then kind of a hybrid procedure, strip and FUE. Yeah. That is the way to go. That is the way that I believe any ethical and truly skilled surgeon will say is the way to go, because in order to get that same amount of those same numbers, You have to go above and below the average safe zone, meaning the hair that will last the longest through your lifetime.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as far as price is concerned, my advice is always, you find the doctor first. You find the patients, you speak to them, you find the physician that you really want to go to. And then price is always negotiable. No matter what these guys say, for most clinics, it's negotiable.
Yeah. But also, well, I was going to say, it's like, don't go by the website price list if they even have one. Some of them don't even have them listed. Find the doctors that you're considering, have your consultations with each one of them, and that's when you start talking price.
Yeah.
Find the doc first, price second, but you talk to them about price once they got their teeth in you, their hooks in you, and they think they do. That's when you start saying, well, how much is it? And what can you do for me?
Let me tell you, I've known guys who started off for the FUE at $9 a graft who ended up giving it to people for $5 a graft. That's just the way that it is. Now, I'm not saying, listen, I think it's sad that this incredibly elegant and difficult discipline of cosmetic surgery has become a negotiable commodity.
Yeah.
I find that to be sad. But that is the reality, because the fact that I can guarantee you, if you needed a kidney transplant or a heart transplant, and there was a cardiologist doing a show, or a cardiac nurse doing a program, you wouldn't be asking about price. You'd want to know who the fucking best doctor is, because that is not a commodity. However, these are little organs. These are miniature organs that are being moved that will affect the rest of your life, affect the emotional life. You're 57 years old. You still have a lot of life in you. Believe me, for me, hearing me say that sounds crazy. I'm going to be 53. But knowing what I know now in my 50s, I realize how young we actually are.
Yeah.
And so this is a big thing. And it saddens me that I'm even saying that it's all negotiable. It sounds ridiculous to me, but that's just the truth. So price is your last thing. Don't worry about the price on their websites. Don't compare the price on websites. Don't compare the stuff you see on Facebook or whatever it is. Find the doctors that you're comfortable with, have the consultations, make your choice on who is the best fit for you, and you will probably get the price that is also comfortable for you.
That's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. I guess the last thing the question that I have basically is, I don't think I've really seen, I've watched a lot of the stuff that Joe's put out, and I've been on your website a lot, Spencer, and looked on the forums, and, I'm a member on the forums and this and that. It's, with the shape of your head and everything like that, with the hairline. Now, I don't need, it's like I've done a lot of research, and I hear you guys talking about these guys that, are trying to get a hairline like a woman, or, they're trying to get a really low hairline at this age. I don't need that. It's funny. I started losing my hair so early that I don't even know what I would look like anymore if I had a super low hairline. So it's like,
I was the same
I'd
way,
be perfect. Yeah. So it's like, I'd be perfectly fine to just get something that would be, even on the widowish peak side at this point in my life, because really, honestly, it's really sad how the crown has really gone almost vaporized in the last 5 years.
Let me ask you
that's bothered me as much.
Sorry, I forgive me interrupting, but let me ask you: are the sides of your scalp, the temple points, which are these triangular tufts behind your eyebrows, have those receded as well?
No, they're not straight. Like, how when you really go full on slick, it'll go straight, but there still are temple points there. They're not super prominent, but they're definitely still there.
Okay. Well, at 57, you still got your temple points. That's a good sign. And mine are completely reconstructed. There's like 2,000 grafts of all the hair been moved on my head are just in the temple points. So is a lot of hair saved if you have yours.
Joe essentially has bionic hair. I mean, everything is just,
yeah.
That's funny.
Oscar was in the
That's pretty good.
OR. We can rebuild him.
Yeah.
But a high hairline with good temple points, or existing temple points, gives the appearance of a stronger hairline overall. So the height of the hairline, obviously, with your degree of hair loss, you need to have something conservative, but you can, once you get the coverage down, then you can go back and revisit adding density to strengthen that frontal zone, because density in a higher hairline makes a higher hairline look a little bit lower. There's an illusion that happens from that. So, any of the doctors that we work with, both Spencer and myself, they're going to approach this from a long-term perspective, based on the amount of hair that you have lost and looking where you're going in the future. And they're going to come up with a plan that's going to say, all right, yeah, you're here today, but this is your situation. We have to be conservative, simply in the height and the overall shape. But it doesn't mean we can't have some sort of decent density. You look at Jude Law. I mean, he's not nearly as, he's like in his, I guess, late 30s now, or maybe early 40s. Classic Norwood 3. He's actually like a 4A, but with a forelock. But all the shows that you see him in, all the movies, he's got super high temples, but it's also really dense. So, and it looks good, right? I mean, density is what matters for even higher hairlines. Even, we've talked about this before in the show, where we're talking about how celebrities, I've talked about how Hollywood hates skin, or Hollywood hates to see scalp in the good guys and the heroes. The bad guys can have thinning hair, they can be bald, but the good guys can't. And I've talked to people in the business, and it's like, yeah, I've got a full head of hair and you can't really see anything, but they still put Topic in my head, right?
Yeah.
So someone like Jude Law, he's got really high hairline, really recessed temples, but it looks like it's super thick because of all the stuff they put in his hair, and it works, right? I mean, it looks fantastic. And so, I'm not saying that kind of design, but that type of approach can still look really good.
Well, to be honest with you, really honestly, I don't find anything wrong with Jude Law's hair at this point in my life. So
well, here's the good news: you actually make the perfect candidate if you have the right donor characteristics. You make the perfect emotional candidate for hair transplant surgery. You have realistic expectations. You are not looking for anything that is, overly youthful. You would be happy just to have a natural appearance that gives you the look of having more hair.
Yeah.
And that
sums it up.
That's a huge step. Your thing is you got to get over the price and look for the clinic. That's number one.
Right.
Once you find the clinics, you make your short list, you have your consultations. Once you do that, then feel free, come back to us, talk to us. Again, everything is negotiable. And if you say, well, negotiable to a point. If you say to a good clinic, well, this hack is willing to give it to me for one price, not I won't be paying by the graft, but by the hair, that's another confusing fucking thing. And or I'll just be paying by the strip.
Before. It's very confusing.
Yeah. Then you may not be able to negotiate well. But if you are negotiating and saying, look, this guy who is in the same stratosphere as you, maybe an IHRS member as well, whatever it is, these guys will be willing to negotiate, especially if they think, okay, I think this is going to be a good patient. He understands. He's, well informed. And we'd like to potentially see him, come back for another procedure one day. Yeah, you're going to get a cut on the price. Or if you're willing to say, you know what, if I'm happy with the procedure, I'll go online and talk about it. There's all different ways to negotiate. That in the end, that's up to you. But the key is, at first, just try to keep the money out of the picture and think about the doctor, the clinic, see who's going to be working on your head, speak to patients, see the results for yourself, and that's how you should make a good decision. Because even though you're 57, to a lot of guys listening to this show, that sounds old. In my mind, you're young, and you could have another 20 years of, fucking and going out drinking and having a good time, and you don't want to have a fucked up head of hair.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's been, it's been an issue for a long time, but it was like, it just, like I said, in the last 5 years, the crown has gotten so bad that, a friend of mine who's real tall saw me a month ago and goes, dude, what's in your hair? So that's a really bad sign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not a good sign.
You had that moment, didn't you?
Yeah. Listen, that's what happens with the fibers, man, or it's Kobren or whatever you're using. Eventually someone's going to ask. I'm waiting for that day. Now, I've had a couple of times when I was told by common law, like, I made a mistake somehow. Like, sometimes you put a hairspray on before, and then you throw on fibers, for instance. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
The shit will just last, and it'll sit. It'll look like a fucking pyramid of dirt. So I've been there, my man. I'm a pro. Even Joe, would say that for the most part, it's very difficult to tell that I'm painting my head. But
I've seen a lot of painted heads, and the first time I saw Spencer's painted head, it was like, wow, that's impressive. The next time I saw it in Vegas, it was like it was just a work of art.
Unbelievable.
A damn work of art.
Well, with me personally, I have a big problem because the hairline, you can see through the hairline, and I'm trying to go all the way up to the hairline, and it really, that's where the real tell is at, And even when I take and I put my hair down really tight with gel, if the right light hits it, well, good luck for me.
Well, listen, guys, I appreciate the call. I think, again, continue to do your due diligence. Price is out of the picture.
Yeah.
I really think that it's probably best to go with, there are a few doctors out there who are very ethical, who do charge by the session. But in most cases, I would say, go with the model where they're charging by the graft, not the hair, but the graft. And, just go to ihs.org, check out the physicians there, check out some of the guys that Joe works with personally as well.
Right.
And that's how you make your decision initially. Price is your last thing. All right?
Okay. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
We should be closing up, but I will take a last phone call because these people have been holding on for a long time. And then, unless you got to go, Joe.
No. Hey, man, I'm here. Unless my battery dies on my camera.
I do got to go. I really feel like having a couple of drinks. I don't know why. But anyway, 888-659-3727. It could be because I've been doing the Bald Show for 20 years. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, this is Brian. I spoke with you guys a couple weeks ago. Black man. I got my hair done over in Mexico, and
where are you calling from again, Brian?
Oh yeah, the black man. How are you?
Yeah, the one black guy who calls the show. Welcome.
I know, right? Tell me about it.
Oh, you're Brian that went to Mexico. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
You're actually. We used to have this guy. What is his? I don't have his ID in here. I used to have some sound clips. He was from Washington D.C.
Yeah.
And he was like the only other black guy who would call the show, and he kind of became quasi-famous when we were on the radio. But go ahead, man.
No, I've been listening to you guys for about a year and a half, and like I told you before, I've had 2 procedures, and I was just going over your, like, even though you guys haven't seen exactly where I'm at right now with my growth and everything, and how the actual growth that I've gotten from the 2 procedures, I think that I'm probably going to just go ahead and chill for right now and see how things go over the next.
We were encouraging that. We were telling you needed to just kind of relax and not go forward.
I'm such a perfectionist, so I guess that's part of my problem. I was reading your little messages on here about OCD and things like that, and so I think that for right now, I'm just going to kind of put a halt on it. And I'll still get consultations and things like that from different doctors just to get their perspective. The doctors that I have gone to to get their view on the work that's been done. I've said that it looks great, when I cut my hair short, but then when it grows out, that's when you can really tell, like, just the little areas that are not filled in completely and things like that. So regardless, I normally cut my hair down short, so I think for right now I'm just going to chill with that. But I wanted to find out with finasteride. I started that back in September, and I haven't had any sides or anything like that. I actually didn't start it 2 years ago because I was worried about the whole side effects and things like that. But everything has been going fine with that. I do have, I don't know if this is one of the things they say, that you have like kind of lottery semen and things like that instead of normal semen. I'm wondering, does that affect later on, like with having kids or things like that? Has anybody asked you guys about that?
Not a doctor, but the studies were showing that finasteride reduces the semenic volume, but it doesn't really affect the sperm count. So there shouldn't be any sort of interference on that level.
Look, here's the thing: you're not going to shoot ropes anymore. Deal with that. That's just if that's if that's the worst side effect, then you're very lucky.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Look at me trying to be all official and stuff.
I mean, if you want to,
Spencer's like, you're not going to shoot ropes. Get over it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, it's just the way that it is, man. I mean, people worry about that stuff, and it's like, to me, it's like, all right, yeah, that's a very, very common side effect, and I would say most guys get that side effect. You are on finasteride. They notice that change, and there has been no clinical data showing that it will, affect your potency. So, but I'm also a fan, just to let you guys know, and again, I'm not a doctor. If you're planning a pregnancy, I always suggest that people get off the drug, even though there's no clinical data showing that you have to. I've known countless guys who've had completely healthy boys and girls while using the drug. But I am of the belief that you don't want to be that fucking anomaly.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you're making plans and choosing to have children, get off it for a couple of weeks and put that shit in a jar or whatever and figure it out.
All right, and then the last question I had is the whole topical finasteride that has come out. What's your take on that? Can you guys give me any information other than what I've seen on the net? I've only seen that, I guess, you can get it in Canada is it Hassan, and I don't know the name of the doctors.
Well, you can get it. You can get it in several places now. I mean, you can get it out of Canada. It's prescription only, no matter where you go. Europe, anywhere in North America, it's prescription only. In Canada, they've got there's a foam version. And then there is a gel version that's available out of a pharmacy in Milan, Italy. And then throughout North America, there are several compounding pharmacies that will ship nationally, or to at least most states, with a valid prescription from your doctor. And they'll usually come in a foam. And the idea behind finasteride is that the whole reason for topical finasteride is to sidestep the side effects of the oral finasteride. Now, I can say with experience that that's not always the case, and not personal experience, but with patients reaching out to me, patients I know that were in unofficial studies with topical finasteride, there are cases of sexual side effects. Now, are they as common as oral finasteride? I don't believe so. They're fairly rare. But the thing about finasteride is the delivery system and the molecular size of the medication do allow it to be absorbed systemically. Not nearly as much as the oral, obviously.
Yeah, but it has to be absorbed systemically in order for you to gain any benefit from the drug. So Joe is right; it's not going to be as systemic as taking an oral medication. But in order for you to reduce DHT, it has to actually penetrate your scalp. Once it is in your skin, that is systemic. That is going through your bodily that's your main
your bloodstream,
your biggest organ, and then it goes through your bloodstream. So yeah, this is my concern. To date, that I'm aware of, there's really little standardization of these different products that are being sold. What I would like to see, and maybe this is something that will be developed, is more of a standardized protocol. So that, you know, I'm not saying not to try these things, but I think at some point that's going to happen. And, you know, maybe we will figure something out through the American Hair Loss Association, where companies have to standardize products. But right now you're dealing with certain compounding pharmacies that make their product in a certain way that are set to the within the parameters of the physician who is initially either testing it or wanting to sell it. There's no standardization across the board, as if you were taking oral medication. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I keep the same.
Yeah. So,
in other words, it's the Wild West.
It's currently the Wild West when it comes to topicals. So, you know, my hope is that there will be a standardized protocol soon, and you know, you're going to have to basically just guess and, you know, find out who's getting good results where.
Yeah, no, definitely. Have you guys used it at all yourselves, or no?
No. All I do is I take 5 milligrams of Proscar. I'm going to take it after the program. Take it one day, and I paint my head, and I spray it all shut. That's what I do. That's how I live my life.
It's cocoon.
I wonder if there are any guys that actually, because I feel like I've been, you know, hornier after starting to take finasteride, and feel like, and that's why I'm like, what the heck, you know? So, and I thought at first I read things that said that you know, the first 2 or 3 months it's just doing that because your DHT levels are all over the place and things like that. But I mean, I've been on it for like 6-7 months now, and it still feels like this increase.
I would say that that's more common than people will write about or that you read about. There's no doubt. I've talked about my experience, especially as a younger person. I mean, it was like that for years. And look, I'm 53 years old, and things are relatively very close to being the same, except, you know, just mentally, sometimes I'm into having a better meal than, you know, spending an hour in bed. That's just me, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I would say that for myself, for my contemporaries, friends, personal people, you know, people in my personal life, they've all experienced that same thing. They felt more amorous when they got on the drug, and seemed to stay that way for a very long time.
Yeah,
I've heard this quite a bit myself, and you know, people talk. I was actually in a discussion with a guy on in the comment section of one of my YouTube videos where he's talking about how finasteride. I forgot the way he was putting it. He said it reduces testosterone, and he went into this big discussion, and he didn't know what he's talking about. But the way it works, it's very simple. You're reducing the amount of you're getting in between 5-alpha reductase type 2 enzyme and testosterone, preventing the enzyme from converting testosterone. Therefore, you have more free-flowing testosterone in your system, which can lead to the increased amorous effect. That's why I look at it. It seems logical to me, and it's backed up by your experience and that of many others that I've talked to.
And you read guys online, there's some real haters out there, and, you know, they're saying that, you know, finasteride will feminize you and stuff like that. There's one guy in particular who's on the forums for years. And all I can say is, you know, without sounding obnoxious, that, you know, I barely have to train. I'm in training a little bit more. I lost a lot of weight. But I'm 53 years old. I'm pretty jacked. And there's no loss of muscle tone. There's no man boobs. There's no, like, when I actually take the time to train more heavily, I notice gains at this age.
Yeah, you say that you don't have man boobs.
What?
You say you don't have man boobs.
Yeah. Well,
but
I've had man boobs, and
we're on camera, dude.
Yeah,
prove it.
It wasn't. I've had man boobs, but it wasn't because of finasteride. It was because of cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
And now they're gone.
I had moobs once because of dutasteride, but that's a different story.
That's a story for the next show.
Johnny Goodhand got it. He said moobs in the chat room.
Yeah. All right, listen, man. I appreciate it. I mean, thank God we have at least one black caller.
Yeah, man. I'm listening every week.
No, I appreciate it. And maybe, maybe we can figure out a way to get some more black guys to call in.
I'm trying to share with my friends. So I have them listening. I don't know if they're
Look, dude, black hair matters, my man. That's going to be our mantra.
I can see the hate mail now.
All right, that's not hate mail. That's good. That's good, funny stuff. All right, dude. Listen, good luck. Thanks for the call, and keep listening. All right.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks,
all right, take care.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.
He's a good caller. I like
him. 888-659-3727. I'm not going to give out the number because I got to go. Guys, we are going to call it a night. I want to thank all of you guys who tuned in. We had a very big audience tonight, especially all of you guys who are tuning in on iTunes Radio and on iHeart. The new guys are tuning in on Joe Tillman's personal YouTube channel, which is awesome. Thanks, guys, for all of all the phone calls. We actually were able to embed Joe's YouTube feed into the forum, which seemed to
that worked.
Definitely worked and increased some things. So it's good. I think we have a good format. Guys who are watching on Twitch, guys who are watching through GFQ, guys who are watching on The Ball of Truth. Again, I know most of you guys are listening, so thank you for doing that. And guys who have been downloading the podcast through iTunes, Jesus, it's getting crazy, and I don't know how to thank you enough. You can also subscribe. Besides subscribing to Joe, you should definitely subscribe to Joe's YouTube channel. Subscribe to thebaldtruth.com. So when we do actually get the podcast out there, you're going to know right away, especially the guys who want to watch the video podcast. Now, you can do the same thing through iTunes as well, but it helps the Bald Truth if you subscribe. There's nothing to sell. We're not selling your email addresses or any shit like that, so don't worry about it. It's all good for our hair loss community for you guys to be involved. Joe's personal website is hairtransplantmentor.com. That's where you can contact him for now, because all of a sudden he's getting so busy. He's becoming too much of a big shot.
I'm telling you.
Hey, man.
Take a number.
Yeah. Our websites, thebaldtruth.com. For archives of this broadcast, check out thebaldtruth.com. Thank you guys for making it. I think it's like 17,000th most viewed site on the internet, one being Google, and it's a hair loss show. It's a big fucking deal. So thank you for that. Cool. Well, that's in the U.S. at least.
That's U.S., yeah.
Yeah. I had to say it, and you had to confirm it. Can't you say?
I'm here for support, buddy.
Yeah. So, I don't even know our international thing is, but yeah, thank you for all the U.S. guys. And we do pretty well in the U.K. too, so thank all of our U.K. callers and listeners. For the American Hair Loss Association, listen, site has not been updated since the Civil War. We're working on that right now. So it's AmericanHairLoss.org. Check out that site. If you are considering surgery, please check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. All the doctors who are part of the IHRS obviously pay their annual dues, just like they do for the ISHRS or any other organization. However, we do not accept everybody into the organization. The guys that support the organization, who are part of it, who are accepted members, are not only at an elite status, guys who are really doing some of the best and most consistent work in the field, and ladies, they also support our message. And that is, our message is truth in advertising, surgery is your last resort, and the fact that they want us to go out there and tell the truth, because they know, as one company used to say, an educated consumer is our best customer. And the bottom line is, that is the way it is. They want well-educated consumers to walk through their doors and know exactly what can and, the entire scope and all the possible pitfalls of hair transplant surgery. So check out IAHRS.org. Also, the message forum is baldtruthtalk.com. Check out the Bald Truth Talk. Again, it's message forum. Take what you read on it with a grain of salt. We do moderate to the best of our ability. And one thing that I like to tell people is, yeah, you're going to see some great before and after pictures, some great videos. Doctors spend time on there answering questions, and Joe's on there, and we really have, in my view, one of the safest, if not the safest, again, my opinion, message form in the field, but it's still a message form. If someone is anonymous to answering questions, telling you to do something, understand where it's coming from. It may not be coming from where you think it is. That's the bottom line. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it. And I've had a much, I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Dude, let me